Hello and welcome to Mission in Focus. In this webinar, we'll be talking about pastoral care. What are the core elements of authentic pastoral care? How can a pastoral care team work best together? What are some of the challenges of providing pastoral care in a community setting? And some practical advice for everyone working in our facilities, including how can you start a pastoral care conversation? Join me as I talk with three leaders as they give their perspectives on the vital role pastoral care plays in our Catholic health and aged care ministries. Marianne, how would you define pastoral care?
Well, I think I'd use the three terms that I've already used in the little book that I wrote for Catholic Health, and that is welcome, inclusion, and attentiveness. And I think you need all three of those components. If someone comes for pastoral care, if a pastoral carer comes to someone in need, the first experience needs to be that of warmth, of welcome, of awareness of the other as other. It needs to be inclusive. It doesn't matter where you've come from, who you are able to receive what I have to offer as I am receiving from you in the caring experience. And then, most of all, that attentiveness. And being attentive means being present, not at the next appointment, not at the last one. And that requires a very real discipline. So welcome, inclusiveness, and attentiveness, but above all, presence.
So thinking about the history of pastoral care, where did it all begin?
It goes back to the story of Jesus, it goes back to the parable of the Good Shepherd, and it goes back to those early Christians who, when there were various plagues and various sufferings that were going on, the Christians were the ones who hung in. And they hung in order to help people, to help the people who were being left behind. And that's something of the essence, again, of pastoral care. It's being attentive to the people who have, in some way or other, been left behind by life. And sometimes health issues, aged care issues, can mean that we feel left behind by life.
Marianne, do you see a difference in the pastoral care provided by professional pastoral practitioners and the kind of pastoral presence that all staff should have or could have?
And that's a really great question, Margaret, because I can see the real development from the time when, say, the sisters in our hospitals really saw themselves as carrying this responsibility for pastoral care. And since then, that's expanded into volunteers who've come in to help in health, aged care context, in all the diversity of those. And what has moved on is the realisation that goodwill is not enough, but the importance of professionalism. And so very real concern has been taken in order to develop the healthcare professional in the pastoral context. Now, the pastoral carer is a really relatively new understanding, and the professionalism that's there has been the subject of real development. And then what we've recognised is that nurses, doctors and cleaners and anyone of allied health can bring a pastoral presence. But that doesn't mean that that replaces the pastoral carer. It means that the community of healthcare or aged care is becoming a context of pastoral care in which each professional can carry out their own particular professionalism, skill, duty.
Marianne, those lovely terms, welcome, inclusion, attentive presence, can they help pastoral practitioners when they work with people of no faith, maybe some faith, or quite religious faith?
I don't believe anyone is without faith. Maybe lowercase f, faith. But the fact that they're alive means that they have got faith in something, in life itself. They're still alive, and we know the terrible epidemic of despair and depression that has its consequences in suicide. So the positive side is you're alive, you may not be well, and you may need care. And what you bring is your searching self, and the pastoral carer brings their searching self. We have affirmations, we have convictions, we may have creeds, we may have confessional beliefs. What's important is that we bring what we've got with authenticity, with integrity, and hear the other person where they are, not where we think they should be or could be, but simply listening to them, attentive to them, and helping them to hear themselves, which is why there is a need for silent times in our pastoral caring, in our way of being present. So, if a person has religious beliefs, then we tune into their religious beliefs. Whether we share them or not, we'll attend to the other where the other is. If a person is struggling and we pick up that their meaning system has broken apart, or if they did have a religious faith in God and this faith, this belief, this conviction has been broken apart in their suffering or in the experience of radical ageing, in that context, we are present to them and enable them to be present to their depths, and to, in being present to them, we communicate a sense of value to them and a sense that there is more to them than they can personally, presently experience. Our presence is our gift to them. Their presence to themselves is their gift to us. And that's where the relationship between the pastoral carer and the one being cared for grows, and a communication, a communion can take shape, and new life can begin through that gift of authentic presence.
So Marianne, you're a religious sister of charity. You've been around Catholic hospitals a long time. What message would you like to give to pastoral care teams in our Catholic systems?
Above all, I'd really want them to be aware of themselves as a team, because working as a team can enable them to become more effective, to become more authentic, to become more real in their presence to others, because if their presence to each other as team is failing, then all of that connectedness I began with will fall apart, and the service will be about ego rather than about other. So how do we work together as a team, accepting difference, accepting the ways in which we work as being authentic for ourselves? But when unauthenticity comes up, because we're all human, when that comes up, that we're able to engage with each other in truth. Because if we can't understand the importance of dealing with conflict amongst ourselves, how will we be able to attend to the conflictual experiences that people who are ill, people who are aging, that they're experiencing? So the self is important as a pastoral carer. The team is important as a modelling of communion, of connectedness. And each of those experiences will be one of healing, of transforming, because we're not talking about the short term. We're talking always about the long term, the mid-term as well. And so, presence, to come back to that, how can we be authentically present as we are, as a team, as individuals in a team, as collaborators in the goal, not simply of the hospital, but in the overarching goal that draws us all into the service that is pastoral care, that is a way of being in authentic relationship. But we're all wounded healers. May we not be wounding healers, personally, communally, or in any other way. We can limp together, we can love together, we can care together, and that's what being a team in health and aged care really encapsulates.
Marianne, in your book, you've written about the joy of mission. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
We experience suffering, aged care, health care. It's there because someone is suffering. There is that experience of suffering. And what is that all about? How do we dare to offer care in this world in which we live, where there's so much scepticism, so much despair, and yet so much hope? There is hope, and out of hope comes joy. And it's an authentic joy that's come out of the crucible of hope. We have dared to sustain our hope. No one would be in pastoral care if they didn't have the capacity to hope. And out of hope, to just have simple joy. To have a joy which is not about party, which is not just about play, though all of those are important for us, but a joy that comes out of the distillation of suffering, of questioning, of the mystery of our own lives, the mystery of suffering, the mystery of the chaos in which we sometimes experience our world. And it's the joy, I believe, that gives us the get up and go to move on, and to move on with others. And that's where compassion comes in. And I see compassion as integral to joy, and joy as a gift in the experience of compassion. So joy is a much deeper experience than we might expect it to be. Joy may bring us close to God, the God we believe in, or is there anything to believe in? But I can experience joy, delight, simply in looking at another and seeing life, being looked at by another and seeing hope, simply by allowing ourselves to be present and to smile when there is absolutely no reason to smile at all.
Marianne, when someone is suffering, sometimes people can find it hard to know what to say, so maybe they stay away. What should people do?
What people can do is simply attend to what is possible. So if I know that someone is facing death, facing really serious illness or surgery, what I can do is simply be present. Because we tend to stay away from people who are suffering. We tend to stay away if we don't have the words to say what we think we should be saying. So the courage to simply be present, the courage to arrive at a bed and to smile, or simply to look and to get the eyes of the other as other, but compassionate other, because compassion is simply suffering shared. And the courage to go and be present to the suffering of the other does set up suffering within ourselves. And to simply be present in silence can give such courage and hope to the other, because you came, you stayed, and you didn't try to give me triviality or diversion. You allowed me to be present to myself because you had the courage and the care to simply stay beside me.
Do you see any particular challenges in community care?
Well, the provision of pastoral care in residential aged care and community services are quite different. So that's partly springs from the different nature of residential care and community care. So residential care, someone comes into a residential aged care service, they come in at a particularly vulnerable point, generally have sold their home, they might have had a really acute episode. It's a very difficult transition into residential aged care, difficult for the families. So they come in and then we walk a journey with them until they leave the service. And so that could be a short journey or that could be a long journey. And in the process of that journey, there's many different aspects to spiritual or pastoral care. And actually I should say that we define spiritual care very broadly. So for some people that will deal with their faith and their practices of their faith that they've had for a lifetime, and for other people it will deal with those things that they in which they find meaning and purpose. In the process of coming in, pastoral care will journey with them in assisting people in the practices, whether they're religious or otherwise, of their lifetimes. And also it will assist when people suffer spiritual distress. And so spiritual distress is a process where somebody's very fundamental value systems are disrupted. And that can come by a traumatic event, it can come by loss, it could come by approaching death, all of those sorts of times when people will be saying, you know, why has that happened to me? I thought this was a good universe. Has God abandoned me? I don't understand. And these sorts of profound disruptions, they need to be addressed for people to find meaning and purpose in their lives. And so that's sort of the continuum in residential care. Of course, in community care, a pastoral care worker will go into a person's home, so it's a very different environment to being in a facility, to being in somebody's home. And the pastoral care journey in our organisation, when we're talking about community care, is the person would go in, they would have a number of face-to-face interactions, because pastoral care is really about presence, physical presence. You look somebody in the eye, you really identify where they are. You might even hold them if they're distressed, hold their hand, but be really physically and attentively present to them, often when they're at a time of a very low point in their life and suffering. And so journeying with that person, but ultimately aiming to link that person back to a spiritual community that can deal with their needs in a long-term fashion.
Julia, in talking about pastoral care, how does it differ? What does it offer that's different to other care services? What makes it unique?
That's where you need a trained pastoral practitioner, because there is a sort of it's not really a continuum, but people see it on a continuum of social support, pastoral support, and the need for clinical psychological counselling. But we see them as different things, so we wouldn't see that a recreational activity would be the answer to, say for example, spiritual distress. But sometimes people who are in spiritual distress, they will need a pastoral intervention and they may need counselling as well.
As a leader in a Catholic ministry, you'd be involved with recruiting pastoral practitioners. What's the disposition or traits that you look for when you are recruiting or looking for pastoral practitioners to work in your services?
We would want a person of great sensitivity, because people are sharing very deep things. We would want somebody who would be able to be physically present to somebody, who'd be able to be a good listener, but somebody who'd also not just be sitting back passively listening. Sometimes people think that pastoral carers just sort of sit and listen, but actually they're attentively engaged in a process. And sometimes when people say things that are really unhelpful to their situation, they need to be listening. They need to be able to challenge those unhelpful theologies. If there are particular things that they need to find peace and purpose, they need to be able to assist them to do that. So we would want somebody who's also resourceful.
April, could you give an example of how you might start a conversation with someone in a pastoral care visit?
I would say, good morning, Margaret. My name is April. I work here as part of the pastoral care team, and I work here in the multidisciplinary team. I come to say hello to you and your family, to let you know that while you're here, anytime you or the people you love just need someone to listen, to talk to as you try to make sense of being here, all that's happening, or perhaps, things are tumbling around about home and the people you love. We're available to listen and to be someone that you can share that with. A big part of our role is providing spiritual care to people. So for some people it can be really important to have Eucharistic support, to have prayer, to have a visit from a priest or chaplain. And if that's important for you, I'm more than happy to arrange that with you. But I'm always guided by you, and there's never any pressure. So anytime, if I come to your bed and you think, oh, not today, that's so okay. But if you'd like me to pull up a chair, I would be more than happy to. So I'll leave it with you.
People come from all walks of life into the hospital, some with faith, some with no faith, some with not sure about what they think. Is pastoral care for everybody?
It sure is. Pastoral care is a way of being in the world. It's a way of being with each other. Yes, we can certainly attend to the specific religious needs of different traditions, but ultimately we're there to connect, to say to another, you matter because you exist. And certainly for people who may not normally be affiliated with the tradition, the need for love, belonging, respect, again, to be understood, to understand what's happening for them, they're all universal needs. We all have them. And that's certainly where pastoral care can be of benefit to other people, to provide that companionship again. As, they try to take in what's happening for them, and that they know that they're not alone.
So April, you're a pastoral practitioner. Can you describe what it is you do?
So I work as a pastoral practitioner at the Calvary in Newcastle. I meet people and their families during their admission to the Mater. I provide emotional and spiritual care to people. That is about listening and assessing what are their needs at this time, whether it's issues related to their treatment, to their illness, their disease, whether it's questions that come up out of their experience about their values and beliefs, about family, wonderings about end-of-life care. Our work is to understand what it is that is important for this person and to ensure that that is honoured and respected in the context of their treatment, and to provide that, to be a voice for that in working with the teams. As people share their experiences, we discern with them their needs, clarifying what are their spiritual needs, but also what are their resources that they can tap into, and trying to keep them connected to that outer world that is a much bigger part of their life, rather than to feel enclosed in their hospital experience. So helping people maintain those connections that really matter to them is a big part of our work. providing people with sacramental care, access to clergy, to offer prayer. We also provide meditation to people, and we have a chapel in our facility where we offer both liturgical services, but also we celebrate milestones for people that are really significant in their life. So our work is really about seeing the bigger picture for people and working with them to make sure that that's honoured throughout their stay.
April, can we talk about pastoral care for staff and what
Yeah.
you might offer there?
What we can offer staff is multidimensional, really, in many ways. So from a really practical viewpoint, in working with staff as part of the team, we can provide that stopgap, in a sense, for when you're having those experiences when you're feeling overwhelmed, you know there's a lot going on for the people you're caring for, and you just can't get a handle on it. And you may be sensitive to, hold on, the lady in bed 3 actually, she needs a bit more time and attention. They're the moments you pick up the phone and you page us. And we can go and be with Shirley in bed 3 and spend time with her, just assessing what her needs are. Both giving you and her an opportunity to get your breath back. And certainly when you have people who are feeling frustrated, really need to vent, whether it's about their experience in the hospital or it's about what's happening in their wider world. Again, to provide that opportunity to them can be really important as it's tumbling around. For many reasons, hospital is very traumatic. And so for someone to have another person just sit beside them and say, I want to understand, what do you need us to understand about you, can be really helpful. So that certainly can be of benefit to the staff on many levels. For staff, we provide pastoral care to you too. And because working in health can be demanding on many levels. We don't come to work, we bring all of who we are to our work, to the bedside, just as our people and their families do. And so we provide a space for staff to be able to download, say that maybe today's really hard, to laugh in the divine madness that can be healthcare in its most beautiful way, and just to know that someone's got your back too. You do not have to do this on your own, we're in this together.
If you'd like to obtain copies of the Catholic Health Australia's Pastoral Care booklet, you can order through the Publications link on our website. And there's also a link to more Mission in Focus episodes. I'm Margaret Deeren. Thank you for being part of the conversation.